It's a wonderful day in the neighborhood, a wonderful day in the neighborhood. Won't you be my, won't you be my neighbor? Hi, hello everyone, it's me, Madison, the Sidereal Maven, and today we're going to be talking all about Mercury retrograde in Sidereal Aquarius, which begins on February 23rd and ends on March 20th, 2026, which is a long ass time for Mercury to be retrograding all over our Sidereal Aquarius house. So I hope that you guys are ready to get into it, because we're gonna get into it. But first, I want to show off this beautiful fan that I got for my birthday from my beautiful friend Sarah, with all the tarot cards on it. Isn't this the most beautiful, coolest thing you've ever seen? The answer is yes. So this video is going to be broken down into two parts. The first part, I am going to discuss the astrological happenings. Then second, I also have cards from my Kim Kron's Oracle deck. Kim Kron's Archetype Oracle. So if that interests you, stick around. All right, so if you are unfamiliar with what a Mercury retrograde is, don't worry, I have a short 3 to 4 minute video here on this channel that discusses what a Mercury retrograde is and why it is not a reason to freak out and lose your minds, I promise. I recommend you go watch that and then come back. But basically what you need to know is that Mercury retrograde is an astrological phenomenon where Mercury, is usually, it's walking forward through the sign of Aquarius, and during a Mercury retrograde it pauses and it stops and it goes, wait a minute, I forgot something over there, and it's going to retrace its steps, pick up whatever it forgot, and when Mercury goes direct, it's going to continue its walk forward. So the funny thing about Mercury retrograde's little walk is that when it's walking forward, it's focused on the future and it's focused on your Pisces house, okay? So even though Mercury is like currently walking through your Aquarius house, it's focused on Pisces because Pisces is its future, and it's like ready to go join Saturn in your Pisces house. But then it stops and it's like, wait, I forgot something over there. And even as it's retrograding back and you were going back to pick up whatever you dropped in your Aquarius house, your mind is definitely still focused on like, wait, what is going on in my Pisces house? And what's going on in your Pisces house is Saturn is there slowing everything down in a way that is probably so frustrating for many of us. What you're going to want to do to understand this Mercury retrograde for you is you want to go to my House Topics article on my Patreon. It's in the Astro 101 collection. It is free for everyone to look at. And you are going to want to look at your Aquarius house topics and your Pisces house topics. And you're going to want to smush them together, okay? Both of these topics are going to be super relevant for you during this Mercury retrograde. And so you want to be aware of both, all right? The next thing you're going to want to do is to look at the actual dates of Mercury retrograde and the Mercury retrograde shadow period. And so I am going to put the dates over here. And the most important thing you're going to notice about these dates is that our Mercury retrograde season takes place during eclipse season. And so on February 17th, we have the new moon solar eclipse in Aquarius, which just happened yesterday at the time of filming. And on the, March 3rd is our next full moon lunar eclipse in Leo, okay? So the eclipses are always going to happen 2 weeks apart, and eclipse season is always chaotic because eclipse season is like when really big shifts are capable of happening in both your Aquarius and Leo houses. So to have Mercury retrograde in Aquarius on top of both of these eclipses is a really big deal, because the eclipses are trying to kind of like usher in some new energy, freshen things up a bit. It's kind of like time for spring cleaning. But to have Mercury retrograde in the middle of this, it's kind of like when you're in the middle of cleaning your room and then you like find something from your past, like an old book or an old scrapbook or whatever it is, and then you stop and you're like, oh my gosh, I have been looking for this, or oh my gosh, I forgot about this. This used to be like such an important thing for me, or it represents like at a really important time in your life. And so you have to like stop cleaning and like emotionally process everything that comes up when you look at that thing. And then you have to go back to cleaning, but now your brain is like somewhere else. You're like, wow, I've changed so much. And how do I feel about that? How do I feel about that? Right? And so there is a lot going on for us mentally and emotionally during this time. So before I get any further into it, I have to say, be gentle with yourself, be gentle with the other people in your life, be gentle with the strangers that you run into on the streets, because everyone is feeling like really emotionally charged right now, very sensitive. And here's the thing about Sidereal Aquarius, okay, is they like to be the tough guy. And they like to be like the smart girl that is like too smart to get emotional about stuff. If you've ever met someone like that, that is like, I'm just too mature to have an emotional reaction. And it's like inside their inner child is like screaming and throwing a fit, and it's like, ah! Aquarius, please. I know better than that. You may be trying super hard to like keep it cool, but we know that inside you're kind of freaking out a bit, and that's okay. That's okay. That being said, that is kind of the energy of the room right now, is everyone's trying to be like, no, I'm cool, I'm calm, I'm like super mature, and this is not affecting me emotionally at all. I'm not affected. You know? So be gentle with yourself, be gentle with the people around you, because everyone you know is kind of having this moment of, oh my God, who am I? I've changed so much, and now that I have this thing that reminds me and shows me how much I've changed, I have to kind of like rethink where I'm going. And that's why your Pisces house is also super important right now, is because the Pisces house is kind of like where we're going, and you want to be focused on that, but first you have to stop and be like, wait a minute, wait. All right. So, because this eclipse in Aquarius just happened, and it is kind of kicking off the Mercury retrograde in a way, I also have to recommend that you go onto my Patreon and watch the new moon solar eclipse in Aquarius, so many words, video that I posted there. It is available to the sparkling supporters and the stargazers tier, which is to say that for the low price of $3, okay, you can watch this video and get even more depth and more understanding of this Mercury retrograde. And I am kind of building upon the ideas that I talked about in that video, so it would just really benefit you to watch it. You don't have to, but I'm going to talk about something specific I talked about in that video, which was a note that I took for the Aquarius eclipse. And so this is what I wrote down and what I talked about in the video. And it says, Capricorn denies, which it fears it cannot have. Under Aquarius, it becomes hidden in shadow, invisible to the conscious. The work of Aquarius is to acknowledge and accept this shadow by pouring light upon it. Which is to say, there is something in your Capricorn house that you wanted or you needed that you did not get for whatever reason. It could be an external reason, it could be an internal reason. You denied it to yourself, someone else denied it to you. And so when you get into your Aquarius house, this unmet need or want becomes invisible even to your own consciousness, which is to say that you're like, I don't even want that thing anymore. Like, I don't even care. I never wanted it in the first place. I was just kidding, y'all. It was just a joke. But then in Aquarius, the more you are like, I never even wanted that, it like sits in the back of your mind and it eats you up inside, and it's still affecting you to not have that need or that want met. And so Aquarius really needs Leo to come in and help it out and say, you know, this thing that you denied yourself has become like a shadow in your life that is haunting you. And until you like shine some light upon it, like a little flashlight, you're like, put some light upon this, you are going to continue to feel haunted by this thing. And so February 17th, this Aquarius eclipse was all about acknowledging the fact that this shadow exists in the first place. And this upcoming eclipse in Leo on March 3rd is going to be you like really acknowledging what it has meant for you to not have that thing, and really asking yourself, well, what if I did? What if I let myself have the thing? What if I let myself want the thing? This Aquarius eclipse, not this eclipse, the Aquarius Mercury retrograde is the pause in which you're like, wait a minute, I left this thing behind that was so important to me. What am I gonna do about that? Maybe I still need this thing. Maybe I still want this thing. Or maybe you're someone who is like, oh, I have actually really outgrown this thing, and maybe I want something else now. And you kind of need to decide what that is. And so I decided to continue this thought, okay, with some different notes. And so I say, the work of Aquarius is to confront that denied shadow and bring it into the light, to acknowledge the parts of itself that have been erased and ignored. When we move into the sign of Sidereal Pisces, the work becomes about embodying these aspects until they are no longer considered other at all. For this reason, under Pisces transits, things that once seemed impossible can become real. Okay, this is important. In your Capricorn house, you deny yourself something that you want or you need. Blah, blah, blah. Talking's hard. And when you get to your Aquarius house, this unmet need or want becomes a shadow that is like haunting you until you acknowledge it. And this Aquarius eclipse and this upcoming Leo eclipse are moments and when you stop and you pause, thanks to the Mercury retrograde, and say, oh, I've been haunted by this. I have been haunted by this, and it has affected me here, it's affected me there, it's made me feel this way, it led to me making this choice. Wow, lots to process. And then going forward into Pisces, and where Saturn is currently sitting, there is this opportunity to say, what if I took that thing and I let it back into my life? What if I embodied this forgotten thing, and then it no longer becomes this separate other thing that I have to contend with, but instead like is accepted back into my sense of self and back into my life, which is the message for the day, I guess. I think that's a really important thing to be thinking about. So that leads me into our tarot cards, oracle cards for today. Again, this is going to be the Kim Karan's Archetype Oracle. And the card on the bottom of the deck, which represents the context of the situation of the Mercury retrograde, is the Warrior. And so the Warrior is really all about what you are willing to fight for in your life. And as we are talking about things, parts of ourselves that we have previously abandoned or denied and ignored and tried to erase from ourselves, this Mercury retrograde is an opportunity to say, am I going to fight to bring this thing back into my life and embody it once more? Or am I going to use my sword to cut it out completely? You have a choice, right? because it's not going to be the same choice for everyone. There are going to be some people that are like, actually, I want that thing back. It is very important for who I am and who I'm becoming, and I need to take this and embody it in my Pisces house. And there are going to be other people that are like, you know what, in the process of this self-becoming and self-knowing, I have realized that this thing that has been haunting me is something that I actually need to like let go of and clear out and move away. The Warrior card is definitely about being intentional with your actions. And here's the thing, when you have some sort of subconscious shadow haunting you, you are not always aware of the way that it is affecting your decisions and the way that it is influencing you to go right or to go left or to take this thing or to let go of that thing. And again, this Mercury retrograde is about clarity. It's about getting startling clarity about what that shadow is. And the context of the situation is you have to make a choice. Do I want to let this in? Do I want to let it go? Do I want to embody it? Am I willing to fight to bring this thing back into my life? Or am I willing to chop it out, get my little sword, chop it away from myself and let something else bloom in its absence? And one other thing I want to say about this card before I move on to the next one is that the same way that that kind of like shadowy thing could be influencing your decisions, it could also like sometimes lead to you creating like self-sabotaging situations, which is an unfortunate outcome of this card sometimes, is that when you are not clear in your purpose and in your intentions, this is why I'm doing this, you know, and you are just acting out, you can end up hurting yourself or hurting other people. And so that is kind of a shadow aspect of this card that needs to be acknowledged, is that when you are ignoring that shadowy thing in your Aquarius house, it can sometimes lead to you making bad decisions. So this is your moment to acknowledge it and be like, okay, what am I gonna do? What do I do? So the next card is, where did my cards go? The next card is the Judge. And this is quite literally like a judge. I'm thinking about like, you've got your gavel. It's also the card of the diplomat. It is a card of discernment, of making clear black and white decisions, but also acknowledging that there are shades of gray in between. And so this is a card that is, again, asking you to make a decision about your shadowy aspects and these things that you've erased and denied and ignored, and be like, okay, like, is this something that I let go of because I had to, because I was forced to, because external reasons in my life didn't make room for it? And if that is the case, has that changed? Can I make room for it now? And also acknowledging, like, maybe you let go of that thing because in the past you weren't willing to fight for it, because it was too hard, because it required too much effort, because it required a sacrifice that you weren't willing to make. Unfortunately, there are times where you have to acknowledge that, like, sometimes you don't stand up for yourself, right? The Judge card is really saying that, like, maybe don't judge yourself too harshly here if there were all of these external reasons. But even if you do all of your soul searching and you realize that, like, wow, I really let myself down, the goal is not to beat yourself up about it, okay? The goal is not to punish yourself or to, you know, continue to beat yourself up. The goal is to say, how do I take a new inspired action going forward? How do I choose my new path forward? How do I be more intentional with my next steps? And the other thing about this card is there is this aspect of shame with the Judge where you can really shame yourself to death, okay? Do not do this, okay? Like, you're not sitting before a jury of your peers you know, unless you are, in which God bless. And I say that ironically. It's kind of a Texas thing to say. God bless your little hearts. But really just saying that, like, don't guilt and shame yourself to the point to where you take no action at all. Do not beat yourself up about whatever you're realizing about yourself right now, because it is just not productive. And yes, Mercury retrograde is about slowing down and assessing things. And one of the main things we're assessing of the moment is kind of our morality and our judgment and our values and our belief systems. Because, again, you look outside, the world's on fire. You know, a lot of people's perception of the way the world works and what is right and wrong and what is acceptable and not acceptable is just kind of like crumbling and falling to the ground. And so it can kind of create like a morality crisis in a lot of people, where you're like, I thought and believed this thing, and this is why I made these choices, and why I denied this part of myself and left it back there, why I did this, why I did that. And so when it all comes crumbling down, you're left wondering, like, what is even real anymore? And the point of the judge is that you need to decide this for yourself. You need to decide what is right and wrong for you. What is acceptable for you to do with your life? What choices in your life can you make that align with your values? Because you can't control what's happening over there. You can't control the fire that's outside your window. You can't control any of that, but you can control yourself, and you can control the actions that you decide to take. And that's kind of all you really have control over. So while it is very tempting to get angry and start throwing like judgment and shame onto other people, because again, nothing that's going on outside is okay, you don't have control over that. You can't force other people and other things to be accountable to your values and your judgment and your morality, but you can hold yourself to that. And if your belief is that you don't give up on yourself and you realize that you did, you come to the discerning moment that you didn't fight for yourself or your belief or your value, these eclipses in this Mercury retrograde is an opportunity to pause and be like, okay, how can I refocus my actions and my intentions towards my beliefs and my values and what I think is right for me? How do I shine light on the shadow in a way that frees me up to do what I'm here to do in this life, in this world? So I have two more cards for you, and the next one is the Vow. Look at this card, absolutely beautiful. I love this one. The Vow is all about our commitments, our promises, and the vows that we make, the oaths that we undertake, the contracts we sign. And so there's very likely some sort of promise you made to yourself in either your Aquarius or your Pisces house that you're reassessing. As you reassess your values and your morals and whether or not you've lived up to them with the actions that you've taken or not taken, there's an opportunity to either recommit yourself to your beliefs and your values and your promises that you've made to yourself, or again, with your little sword cutting away, there's an opportunity for you to close something out that you're like, I am done with this thing, and that is my new promise to myself. And if you're a spiritual person, I assume that you are because you're here in the Sidereal Maven channel. Something the description on this card says is that the ancestors bear witness. And I really love this idea because I'm a spiritual person and I care a lot about ancestry. Is the idea that like your ancestors or your spirit guides or the spirituals that you hold close to your heart are like bearing witness to the promises that you make. So even if you are making a promise to yourself quietly in private, like, there is like a spiritual aspect to making these promises to yourself. And if you have come to the judgment and the realization that you've broken your promise, like, there is like a spiritual consequence to have broken that promise to yourself. And you either need to, you know, reach a conclusion with this and say to yourself, like, make a moment out of it, okay? Whatever that looks like for you, make a moment out of it to say that, like, this contract has come to an end, right? Make it right with yourself, make it right with your spirits, that you are done with that thing. And if you need to recommit to this thing, make a moment out of that. Make a ceremony out of you recommitting to this thing. And if you are someone that is coming to a new vow, like, say you are, you know, recommitting to your sobriety, maybe you are recommitting to your education, maybe you are recommitting to following a dream that you gave up on, maybe you are making a new commitment that replaces the one that you were letting go of, right? Because maybe you committed to a certain job or a certain field, or maybe to a relationship, only to be like, this actually doesn't serve me. And maybe it did in the past, but it doesn't now. As I bring my shadow forward, I realize that, like, I need something else, and it's time for me to commit to myself and commit to a new thing, a new path forward, right? So whatever this is for you, you know, take a moment with yourself to bear witness to your own commitments, to let your spirits and your ancestors bear witness to your commitments, because it just creates like a sense of finality, if that makes sense, that brings you into the present, that makes it feel more real. It's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like the whole concept of the jury, right? Like, if you make a decision in private, like, it's really easy to be like, well, no one saw me make that commitment, so if I go back on it, like, no one's gonna know. And the whole point of this card is to say that, like, but you know that you're breaking your promise. Your spirits know that you're breaking your promise. So don't act like no one saw that, because they did. I hope that makes sense. Not to make it a little woo-woo, but this is a woo-woo channel. And the last card is the Forest, which, again, it's got like a little tint. Another beautiful, gorgeous card, like most of the cards in this deck. The Forest is kind of like a whimsical sort of card. You know, think about all the different mythology around forests. They can be dark, they can be scary, they can be full of monsters, or maybe you will find, you know, a magical witch's hut and they give you a spell that makes your life better, or you meet a fairy and maybe it seems like they're gonna be nice, but then they trick you. It's kind of like, the point of the Forest is like to get lost and to not know where the hell you are going, and to embrace the fact that you don't know where you're going. So again, intentional purpose. You want to be intentional with your actions from now on. You want to be discerning with your actions, and to take actions that align with your values and your beliefs, and actions that align with your new commitment to yourself or your recommitment to yourself. But this is like basically a warning that as you go through this process, you at some point may not be able to see the forest for the trees. You may not be able to see the end result. It's kind of like, say you're changing your major in your recommitment to yourself because you previously picked something that you thought was right because everyone else said it was the right thing to do. But throughout this Mercury retrograde, you realize that, like, you abandoned some other dream that you really want to do, right? And so maybe your choice to go pursue that thing, you don't know if it's going to work out. You don't know that you're going to graduate if you pick this thing. You don't know if you're going to get a job if you get that degree. You don't know if it's going to take you where you want it to take you. And the forest is saying, do it anyway. Do it anyway. There's no guaranteed results in life. And I know that hurts to hear, especially my earth signs, the Taurus, the Virgos, the Capricorns are like, if I don't know that 1 + 1 is going to equal 2, then I'm not even going to do math, okay? You know, you got to try anyway. You got to take a chance on yourself. You got to try. You got to fight for what you want. And it's going to be hard, and it's going to be confusing. And every now and then you may lose a battle, okay? But in the context of the wider war that you were fighting for yourself, like, you still have the opportunity to win, but not if you give up on yourself the second it looks hard, or the second it gets dark, or the second you run into some weird fairy and don't know if this is a friend or a foe. Well, you're going to have to engage with them to find out. You're going to have to engage with your dreams to see if they can come true. You're going to have to give it a try. And maybe you're going to have to make multiple tries. And the thing it says on this card is like, you're not truly in the forest if you don't feel like you're completely lost, confused, and turned around a couple times. And I think that is true for whatever dream you're chasing, or whatever vow that you are making to yourself, is that there are going to be times in which you feel like, I don't know if I made the right choice by betting on myself. I don't know if I made the right choice by choosing to fight for myself and my dream and my belief. But that doesn't mean that you're messing it up. It just means you're in the thick of it. In the thick of it, in the thick of it. What is that? That play? Or it's a movie, Into the Woods? Into the woods to grandma's house. Into the woods to grandma's house. You're gonna get lost on the way to grandma's house. But that doesn't mean stop in the middle of the forest and give up. It means keep walking, or you are never gonna find grandma's house. That is scarier. That is scarier, okay? Giving up on yourself is the scary thing. Committing to giving up on yourself is the scary thing. Getting lost on the way is part of the process. So trust the process, and you're gonna make it through the eclipse season, okay? You're gonna make it to Mercury retrograde, which ends on, let me look at my dates again. Mercury retrograde ends on March 20th, 2026. And I promise you that by that time, you're gonna be like, you know what? I can freaking do this. And you can. And then Mercury is going to enter Pisces April 10th, getting us out of the shadow period. We've gone back in our Aquarius house. We've picked up the thing. We've emotionally processed it. We've decided to cut some things. We've decided to recommit to other things. We have a new clarity of mind. And by April, when you get into your Pisces house, you're going to be ready to embody that thing, okay? You're going to be like, actually, it's not other. It's not something I gave up on. It's not something that was never going to happen. Instead, it's part of my journey, and it's part of my path, and I don't know where it's taking me, but I believe in myself, and I believe in my dreams, and I believe that my dreams are worth fighting for, and I believe that I am worth fighting for. Fight for yourself, y'all. No one else is going to do it. You got to believe in yourself. You got to fight for your dreams. Fight for your life. You can do it. Yeah, that's it. Hope you're having a great day.